presents a new upcoming class. Stay tuned. Sacred Bonds by Daryl Abdullah Kirk. Yes, Sacred Bonds, navigating the depths of Muslim matrimony and the family. You don't want to miss this one. Please stay tuned. Streaming on all major platforms right here on SunnahFollowers.net.
Alhamdulillah, wassalat, wassalam ala wa rasulullah. I'd like to welcome everybody to our series entitled Sacred Abode. And this is the series that I teach that focuses in on establishing the Muslim home, which is so important for us today. You know, we have to learn how to establish the Muslim home. You know, we all want to be married. Getting married is the easy thing. Maintaining that marriage is what's hard, because once you get married, effective immediately, you then have to go through the process of trying to establish a Muslim family, trying to establish a Muslim environment, Muslim sanctity, how to make your home into an Islamic sanctity. And it doesn't matter if you've been previously married or first time marriage. It doesn't matter if you got one wife, two wives, three wives. This is what the brother, you know, I'm going to bring it up. Brother Bilal. Brother Bilal asked me as I was doing the PowerPoint, you know, I was answering these questions for the new Shahadas. And Brother Bilal was asking me, he said, Sister Laila, I know you're doing a class on establishing a Muslim home. He said, how does it go? I said, what do you mean? He said, if a brother got 2, 3, 4 wives, does that mean he has to establish 4 Muslim homes? Yep, exactly. And we were laughing about that. Exactly. And Brother Bilal made a point. This is where it differs with the non-Muslims. Like Brother Bilal was saying in the Reddit group, he said non-Muslims, they have relationships with women, and it's just a relationship. In Islam, we don't do that. We get married and we build a foundation. We establish a family. You know, even if a man takes on 2, 3, or 4 wives, each family is separate, and he has to establish a family for each wife because every woman is different. Exactly. We don't do like what they call themselves, that, you know, the LDS. The LDS, when they practice plural marriage, they all live in the same house. Married to the, you know, he can have as many wives as he wants. All the children belong to us. Your kids are mine. I can tell them what to do. No, we don't. No, that's not Islam. You know, each family is its own independent unit. Okay, you know, because each woman is different, and her children are hers. You know, so the man, yeah, that's a lot of work. Like Brother Bilal was saying, it's a lot of work because polygamy ain't easy. That's why it's not for everyone. You have to be able to afford it. You have to be able to have the patience to deal with each woman and her issues, because we're all different. You know, you have to be able to be fair and just, you know, in how you spend your time. You have to be conscientious to not favor one family over the other. It's hard. And I'm going to tell you guys, when you go to a Muslim country, Muslim populated countries, you don't see that many men practicing polygamy because it's not easy. You find more men doing that here in America than you do overseas. They'll tell you, no, man, I just one. I'm good. They'll tell you, I'm good. My brother-in-law, he's like, I'm good. My brother-in-law's like, I'm good. I used to tease him, you don't want 2, 3, 4? Because you definitely can afford it. Nope, we good. We good. Nobody needs those issues. But yes, Brother Bilal, each family is established independently, separately, on its own. Exactly. So that's kind of hard for a dude to do. Yeah, you marry a new wife. Exactly. You marry a new wife, you got to start from the foundations. You may have been with this woman, for 50 years or whatever, and y'all have your foundations established. Now here you done took on another wife. You have to start from scratch, getting to know her getting to know you, how we can click, how we can get along, how we can overlook the deficiencies in each other. You have to learn how to deal with confrontation. It's like starting all over again. Exactly, Brother Bilal. It's like starting all over again. It's not easy. Yeah, and that's why a lot of these brothers, when you go to the overseas, they don't have a bunch of wives. Yeah, it's very hard. Yes, but that's what this class is about, establishing the Muslim home. You want to make your home a faith-filled environment. You want it to be a spiritual retreat. You want it to be free of the fitna of the world. Seriously, who wants to deal with arguing and fighting and differing? And oh my God, oh my God. And then the abuse, as we spoke about last week, the different abuses that we have to have our eyes keyed in on: verbal abuse, spiritual abuse, physical abuse. And today we're going to speak about another type of abuse that has become an epidemic within us as Muslims. You hear more about it every day, and that's molestation, sexual abuse. Remember, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if you live to see the days of fitan, right before the war is declared against Islam, there will be many types of trials and tribulations that this nation will have to endure. And one of them is, he said, Islam will become strange and the people will go back to how they used to be before Islam. That jahiliyyah, that ignorance, fornication, adultery, rape, incest, molestation, all of those things will appear. Okay? And that's what we see today. You guys see it on the TV, on the news. Now, I'm not talking about non-Muslims. We're talking, these hadiths from the Prophet address us, not the non-Muslims. The companions asked him, in fact, what's the source? In one of those hadiths in Sahih Muslim, one of the companions said, are you speaking about the unbelievers? He said, no, you, my nation, will be indulging in the adultery, the fornication, the alcohol, the intoxicants, the molestation, the murder, and all of that. So he's talking about us. And it's true. How many of you know people who have been sexually molested, Muslim families who have had to deal with sexual molestation? It's all on the TV. It's really popular in certain parts of America. Texas, I'm just going to name it. Texas. Every month, it seems like in Texas, we get from the same institutes, we get another teacher accused of molesting another Muslim kid. And it's sad because most of these kids that are being sexually molested are African American or African Black kids. It shows how sick we are. But yes, sexual molestation, sexual abuse is going on in the Muslim homes today too. And this is to be expected because, as the Prophet Muhammad said, when we imitate the unbelievers, we will also end up adapting their problems. Okay, and so we have their problems. We have a high divorce rate. We have a high apostasy rate. We have a high homosexual rate. And we have a very high molestation rate. So today what we're going to do is speak about it. We're going to speak about sexual molestation and how Islam, how Allah has set the guidelines in place to protect us from such, incidents. But because we as Muslims are not practicing this religion the way Allah commanded us to, we're sugarcoating and watering down Islam, trying to blend in and be like the non-believers. We're having the problems that they have, with this in their families and schools. So let's put the PowerPoint up. And by the way, for those of you who haven't purchased the book yet, this is how the book looks. Again, make it larger. This is the book, Sacred Abode. And you can order this book off of Amazon. It's $13. And today we're going to be covering pages 41 through 57 of chapter 5, which addresses molestation in the home. Okay? Let's put the PowerPoint there so you can see. Yeah, it's a topic that we don't like to talk about, but it has to be discussed. Good, as you said, Sister Kimmy, nobody likes to talk about this, but nobody likes to hear about this, but we need to discuss it because it's happening every day in the Muslim communities. So, along with many of the abuses that we've already discussed, the physical, spiritual, emotional abuse, the reality is that there's a big epidemic here that has emerged amongst us, known as sexual abuse too. It's happening in our communities, and it's happening to all of us, no matter what your race is, your color is, your socioeconomic status. We have it it's impacting us all, the Arabs, the African Americans, the Pakistanis, the Bosnians, the whites, no matter, what the race or status, this is a problem. And this problem undermines the foundation of the family. This problem violates the sanctity of the home. Remember, Allah tells us in the Quran that our homes should be a spiritual retreat. It should be a place of safety, a place of love and kindness, not molestation. And again, while no family is entirely immune to the effects of sexual molestation, it predominantly happens in those families that have weak foundations, those families that don't focus on La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, those families where the parents don't take the time to educate their children about Allah, about this religion, about their rights as a child. Okay? This is why I'm telling you, we have to, as women, put the focus back in on a home. A lot of you sisters are working. You're just like the non-Muslim women. You want to live like them and work like a man. But who's paying the price? Your children. And oftentimes when it comes to sexual abuse within the home, the parents don't even know it's happening. Okay? It's from the babysitter, or it's from the school, the mosque. You send your kids to the Muslim school, to learn so you can work. Okay, but you don't check to make sure the kids are safe. So again, this is a big epidemic amongst us. Parents, we have to understand that Allah tells us in the Quran that when He created the human soul is criminal by nature. What does that mean? That means it's part of the human nature to be attracted to everything that's dirty, everything that's bad for it. We're weak and we're ignorant as humans. Allah also says that the human soul is ignorant as well. Okay? If that human soul has not been trained by the fitra of the heart, then that soul becomes like worse than an animal. It's only looking for self-gratification. So we have to be very, very careful, guys, and not be so narrow-minded as to think that, like I said earlier, that all Muslims are good. There's no bad Muslims in the world. And I don't have to be so worried about my kids. I can take my kids to the mosque and just leave them there and don't check on them. And just trust that they're going to be well cared for by the people they're around. This is nonsense. Because a lot of this molestation, as you guys see on the news, is happening in the Muslim schools. Remember, the prophet said, we will imitate the Christians in everything they do. And y'all know what the Catholic schools are big on. The ministers and preachers and boys. Okay, well, this is happening with us today too. You're so busy trying to make that money, trying to get that life of the dunya, that you just leave your children unattended. We cannot leave our children unattended. Okay? So, if I can't trust to leave my kids at a Muslim school, and I definitely can't trust to leave them at a Kafir school, what's an alternative? Well, one alternative is to homeschool your children. But again, this is a big problem because, again, we are chasing that dream for money. It costs money to homeschool, just like it costs money to put them in a Muslim school. So again, and also homeschool comes with some deficiencies too. You still want your children to learn how to interact with others. So you can homeschool your kids, but you're going to have to also get in touch with your Islamic community and see what events are going on in your Islamic community where you and your children together can participate and attend, so that your kids learn social interaction skills as well. I personally, if I was a young woman and was making babies, I would be at home homeschooling my kids. I wouldn't put my children in a Muslim school, and I wouldn't put them definitely in a Kafir school. I would teach my kids myself. I would raise them myself and teach them myself, okay? And that's why I tell the female students of mine here, I tell them, go to school and get a degree in something that you can do and work from home. Like I tell some of my young girls here, become a billing coder or a medical billing coder, because they make good money and they work from home. I got another student who's a seamstress. She makes clothes. She designs and makes her own clothes from home and sells them in a store. You know, I got another student who's a nurse, but she's the type of nurse that works from home. She handles everything from home. You know, so, you know, we can still get secular education and make that money, but we should look for careers that will entail us working from home. Yes, medical billing and coding. There's going to always be a shortage of that, and that's big money. Nursing, big money. Okay? So homeschooling is a good solution to avoid your kids being molested outside the house, but you still have to look within the home too, because a lot of times molestation occurs within the family, believe it or not, from a sibling. You'd be surprised how many children will tell you they were molested by another sibling or an uncle or an aunt or a grandfather or a grandmother. It happens, guys. And again, this happens when we fail to live our lives within the guidelines of Allah's laws. Allah has set forth rules. And that's what I was talking about in my 6:30 class. When we look at the laws, we look at the obligations, we look at the rules that Allah has set in effect for us, we see the virtues of them, that they were all created for our protection, our betterment. But the question is, how many of us are living by the rules and guidelines of Allah? If we did, then we'd be protected within our homes from molestation. For example, Allah tells us that the boys and girls should be separated in their sleeping arrangements by the age of 7. How many of you do that? Once your kids turn 7 years old, that's when you separate the boys from the girls. Do you guys know, this is no lie, I know some Muslims who are teenagers and they share in the same bedroom. Why would you do that? Why would you have your 16 and your 13-year-old boy and daughter and son sharing a room together? I mean, come on. Allah says separate them by the age of 7. And also, Allah teaches us too that, and if 2 boys or 2 girls have to share the same bed, then make sure they have separate blankets. This prevents the LGBTQ from happening. If you have to put 2 girls in the same bed, have them sleep under separate covers. My mother used to make me sleep at the bottom, and she put my sister at the top, and we had separate blankets, so it wasn't no cuddling up with each other. Okay? Allah makes these rules for our betterment, because remember, He knows His creation better than we know ourselves. Listen to what the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said. He said, make your children pray when they are 7 years old. Hit them lightly to make them pray when they're 10, and arrange their beds to sleep separately when they're 7 years old. Okay, so, but how many of you still got your kids, and they as teenagers, a boy and a girl sleeping in the same bed? Or you got 2 boys sharing the same bed and they underneath the covers cuddling each other. No, this is not Islam. So again, a lot of the molestation that occurs in the Muslim homes, we bring it on ourselves. Remember, Allah says whatever bad befalls you, it comes from your own doing. We bring a lot of this stuff on ourselves by not obeying Allah and doing the recommendations that He tells us to do. And also, not only does Islam teach us to separate the kids and put them under separate blankets when they turn 7, but also even the way we dress, like I talked about earlier. There's specific etiquettes that we should follow in our dress. You shouldn't have your daughters walking around in hot pants and a tank top. You shouldn't have your daughters walking around your sons in boy shorts and a bra. Okay? The girl should be dressed modestly at all times. Even though, a woman doesn't have to cover up her hair and wear overgarments around her brothers and her father. The righteous woman does. Like I told you guys, my brothers, I'm older than all of them, except for my oldest one. But my brothers, they will tell you they haven't seen my hair since I was 14 years old. When my brothers come to visit me, and I'm 63, When my brothers come to visit, I throw on an overgarment and I throw on a hijab. I do not sit around my house with my hair out and walking around in a pair of tight, skinny jeans, you know, with a bra on. But there's a lot of women that do that. You know, we need to cover our nakedness. For boys, you should cover from the navel to the knee. I tell my grandsons, put a shirt on. Don't walk around the house with your chest out, your stomach out. Because the Prophet Muhammad said it's better to cover your chest. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw Amir ibn al-As in the marketplace, Amir ibn al-As did not have a shirt on. He had on his lower garment, but he had no shirt on. The Prophet ran up to him and he said, Ibn al-As, do you have a shirt? He said, of course I do, O Prophet of Allah. You know I do. The Prophet said, then put a shirt on. That would be better for you. Subhanallah, that's a muwatta hadith. So I tell my grandsons, don't be walking around the house without a shirt on. I tell them, put a t-shirt on, put an undershirt on. Okay, cover it up. It's better. It's better. It's safer. Okay, so we need to take the time as parents to educate our children about the importance of modesty and educate them on the importance of covering up, even around your father, even around your brothers. Because remember, Shaitan runs through a man's veins. Shaitan runs through a man like blood runs through his veins. That's what my mother always told me. When I was a girl growing up, she said, never trust yourself around any man, not your father, not your stepfather, not your uncles, not even your brothers. She said, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Shaitan runs through a man like blood runs through his veins. Don't give them reason. Don't give them reason to become weak. So I wear hijabs around my brothers. I wear abayas around them. I'm not walking around trying to be Nicki Minaj. What kind of crap is that? And my grandkids the same way. I tell my granddaughters, when your Uncle Issa come over, you put on some clothes. You don't walk around your uncles with a pair of shorts on and a bra. No, you cover it up. So again, this falls on us as parents. A lot of this molestation, a lot of the sexual molestation that occurs in our homes, you know, could have been prevented had we learned and followed the guidance of Allah. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, and tell the believing women to lower their gaze and to guard their private parts, and to not display their adornment except what naturally appears thereof, and to draw their hijabs over their chest. Like I tell you, sisters, you're not supposed to be wearing your hijabs wrapped around your neck. They're supposed to cover those breasts, and to not display their adornment except to their husbands, their fathers, their husbands' fathers, and so on. And even when we do that, your husband is different, but even with these other mahrams, you want to wear loose fitting clothing around them. Loose fitting clothing around them. Okay? So again, to not tempt Shaitan. All right? So again, guys, molestation happens. It happens a lot. But one of the best ways to prevent it from happening in the family is to, number one, talk about it with your children. And number two, have your children dress modestly, even amongst their siblings within the home, and separate them. Even when it comes to playing games, when we're going to play games, there's some games that girls shouldn't play with their brothers. Why would you have your daughter on top of her brother wrestling? You tell her, no, we don't do that. You don't play like that with your brother. Okay? Why would you have your daughter sitting on her father's lap? My mother always told me that. Don't ever sit on nobody's lap. Don't sit on your father's lap. Don't sit on your brother's lap. We don't do that. We don't do that. We have to educate our kids, because physical interaction can start off being playful, but it can lead to surprises popping up. Especially when it's a boy that's puberty. Your sons are pubert. Your husband is a grown man. You tell him, no, you take her off your lap. No, we don't do that. You tell your daughter, no, you don't sit on Abu's lap like that. You too big. You could do that before, but you 6 years old now. Now that you 6 years old, you can't sit on Abu's lap like that. Nope. All right. So again, if we follow these guidelines, that'll help us to try to minimize that sexual molestation that occurs in a home. And then to next time we meet for this class, which will be next week, just like I went over some of the signs, we talked about signs of physical abuse. We talked about the signs of spiritual abuse. I'm going to go over some of the signs that sexual abuse may be happening in your home.